my advice to anyone else who's feeling like they're in a situation, whether they're feeling like they are powerless or in a place of power, if they just have like that feeling in the back of their mind, like something isn't right here, to speak to someone, not just to hold that in. And I know that this won't work for everyone because I've also had some colleagues who are in the tech industry who are working under like working visas, and they feel like a little bit more powerless because they're not able to really speak out or fight for these issues as much because they don't have as much freedom to lose their job. And so I understand that for everyone, this is going to be a little bit different and it's not going to be as easy. But if you are in a position where you do feel like you can speak to someone, whether it's people on your team, your manager, somebody who's your manager's manager, or even the highest boss in the company, whoever's high up there, speak to people about this and don't let these issues go unknown. And then another small piece of advice adding on to that is check out companies like Ethical Intelligence, it's actually run by one of our colleagues, Olivia Gamblin, and they are doing amazing work for basically coming in and consulting with people who are doing technology and making technology in big tech companies or small tech companies and who need ethical guidance and ethical consultation. And I think that they're not the only ones who are doing this. There's a lot of people who can come in and help with very specific niche problems and issues that maybe a data scientist or a machine learning engineer or a website developer or a computer scientist might have not been trained to know what to do. And that's okay. So there's no shame in that. But there is something that needs to be done. So don't just sit with that. Do something with it. Reach out, talk to people, and get a conversation started.
Yeah, I guess I would just add just quickly, I think the first thing is to do your dang research. So I think like I think that the folks, in my experience, the folks who are like really engaging with that discomfort of like what is happening downstream with what they're creating are kind of few and far between. And I hope there's more people because more discomfort at some point, just because I think it's really important to first, like, I think the first step is actually, before you get to that point, getting in touch with that. Like, what is really happening? What am I doing? What am I creating? Where is this thing that I'm creating going? Because, and again, I come from an engineering household, and so I think it's really easy to get into this, like, I have a problem to solve, and I'm going to solve it, and I'm not going to go, like, to where it's actually going to impact people down the line. And again, technology can have some wonderful impacts, right, as well as negative impacts. So I do want to name that. But I think the first thing is to do your research about what is going on out there. What are the hot topics? What should you be paying attention to in your specific field? And then after that research, like really getting in touch with where you're at emotionally with that. Like, is that okay with your moral framework? Do you know what your moral framework is? Do you know where your line is? Like, if your company asked you to do something, would you know when to say no? Or do you feel like you could say no? And that might tell you something as well. And then I think the last thing is that all of this is so complex, and something that Jess and I deal with a lot in talking to so many people about so many things is that there's a large amount of overwhelm, right? Especially right now, so many people are doing this work on responsible AI. It's come about, within the last like 6 years, and it's just there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of like companies coming out like we need to make a statement right now. There's a lot of just stuff out there that can create overwhelm. And in my experience, especially as a minister, overwhelm can cause shutdown and a desire to do nothing whatsoever. And so I think if people, wherever they are, can just start where they are, as opposed to wanting to solve the entire system, and treat this more as a general movement. And a lot of our guests talk about that. This is a movement, and finding where you're situated and your own positionality, and then making change out of that. Like, what can you do in your company right now? And maybe your boss won't be chill with that. So what can you do in your cubicle, right? Can you put like a Black Lives Matter banner up there? Like, what can you do? I mean, maybe your cubicle is in your house right now, unfortunately, but where can you start pulling, right, from where you're situated right now? I think that's what my last piece of advice would be for that.
Thank you so much for listening to this clip of the Data Talk podcast. To check out the full show or see the full catalog of previous episodes, go to Experian.com/Data Talk.